Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are doing great. This is Max from the Freedom Calendar. I have two guests today. I have Benita. Hey, Benita, what's up?
Hi, Max. It's so good to be here. Thanks for supporting parents and kids together.
Are you guys having a good time at the AGM last weekend?
The AGM was great, and I'm already refreshed and ready for the next project, the big rally on November 9th.
Yep, and we're going to talk about that as well too. And I also have Jojo as well, who is the spokesman for Parents and Kids Together. How are you doing, Jojo?
I'm doing well, Max. Thanks for the invitation as well.
Fantastic. So we're going to talk a little about the event that they're going to be organizing as well too. Also, the state mission statement about the this whole group that's been emerging right now, and other things as well. So, Benita, you want to talk about the event on the November the 9th, isn't it? That's going to be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, Parents and Kids Together is actually it's not a new organization. It's a coalition of organizations, which Jojo will share about shortly. And we actually have a number of initiatives. The one we're prioritizing right now is the big rally on November 9th. Now, your viewers are likely aware that there's been some new legislation being read in the legislature, first reading on bills 26, 27, and 29. And these are very exciting bills. First reading on all three of these bills occurred last Thursday. And these bills, they talk about parental rights and healthy boundaries for children and safety for females who play sports. And there was actually a rally last Saturday at the Alberta legislature in opposition to the bills. Our rally on November 9th is going to be in support of the bills. And so we're looking for thousands of people to come and join us. You know, it's funny, Max, because sometimes I find people are more activated when they're angry. And I think what's important here is that we celebrate when something's going right, and we basically say to the government, you are on the right track, make sure you pass these bills. So that's what this rally is about. It's not against legislation, it's in favor of legislation that has already gone through first reading.
Yeah, and this is a very important thing is that those bills that were passed last week actually are the result of months of collaboration. Basically, that was saying to some people as well at the AGM, for those who know the word, that's the UCP AGM that happened in Red Deer last weekend. But those laws that are being codified now as a bill were voted in last year's AGM, right?
Well, right now, Max, what I'm referring to is the legislation. I know that the party has a
Okay,
party
the
business,
legislation.
but I'm
Okay.
just talking about the legislation and the bills I'm referring to. They haven't technically passed. They've simply gone through first reading, and that
Okay.
occurred Thursday, October 31st. And so these bills haven't passed yet, which is one of the reasons we're having the event. We also have an aggressive letter writing campaign going on, and this is something we want all of our supporters to do, whether you're coming to the event on November 9th or not. But Jojo can share more about that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, thank you, Benita. The challenge we have, Max, is what you said, is the opposition is loud against this, but I think most Albertans support having parents know if their children are being transitioned socially or chemically at school. They support the right of girls, biological girls, to participate in sports with other biological girls. And right now, according to our opponents, there are about 300 people who rallied in Edmonton, and we'd like to see much more than that to rally in support of the legislation, as Benita said. We also know, according to the leader of the opposition here in Alberta, of the NDP, Nahid Nenshi, that he claimed to have received 4,500 emails against this legislation from Albertans. So we would like
Yep.
to see even more people contacting all of the MLAs. That's one of the key things we'd like to do from every region of this province, to contact their MLA and let them know, whether they're NDP or UCP, that Albertans support this legislation. They need to know, and this has been the motto of our organization here, our coalition, that parents and kids are better together. And so I really want that message to come clearly, that there's no one here on our side who's opposed to any child. We support every child, but we also recognize that children need the support of their parents. It's actually a right that children have to be protected and guided by their parents. And that's why the name of our coalition, the name of our rally is Parents and Kids Together. And really, I think that's a message the vast majority of Albertans will support.
So, from my understanding, this event will be it's basically a support rally for the three bills that are on first reading. Is my understanding correct that this is not necessarily like a new spinning group, but rather a cooperation group, isn't it?
Yeah, it consists of several educational groups, religious groups. We have a group of more Muslims who are joining us. We have a couple of detransitioners, a organization called Detrans Alliance Canada is going to have send one of their speakers, actually their main leader, and another person who would have directly been affected by this bill if she had lived in Alberta. She would have been protected. And she says that if this bill was around or this was a law in her province, she wouldn't have gone through all the painful things, including in her body right now, that she's going through. So she's flying all the way in to support these bills, and to tell people that we all ought to support this bill. So yeah, there's a coalition here, and I think it's really important, Max, because so many times people come up to speak out against a bill. And we were talking to an MLA who in fact said, "We only hear from you guys when you're upset at us. We never hear from you when we do something right," as Benita said. And that needs to change, especially because the vitriol, the hatred of the people who are opposed to this bill is so ridiculous. And what I mean by ridiculous is they're claiming that the UCP government wants to kill children. They don't care if children commit suicide, that we want to beat up and kill trans people. We actually have a transgender person from Lethbridge coming to share about the support that the argument she gives is that it's just something everybody should support, regardless if you're trans or not, because kids are not capable of understanding basic long-term consequences to what will happen to their bodies if they go through puberty blockers or hormone therapy or even an operation. And this bill actually allows that pause to happen so that any kind of gender transitioning will happen after they mature. And so we're going to hear from these people at the rally. You'll hear from a medical expert. You'll hear from clergy. What we're going to do is, as Benita said, celebrate the fact that we actually are the first province. Get this, Max, the first province to have a law that allows this kind of protection. And our hope is once these bills become law, other provinces will be encouraged to do the same.
Absolutely. And I often said that what happens in Alberta will be basically replicated to other provinces as well. In this case, is not exception. So our talk about groups, our talk about the Trans Alliance Canada. Benita, you mentioned other groups as well, right? Like Alberta Parents for Education, isn't it? To name a few.
Alberta
Yes.
Parents Union. Yeah, Alberta Parents Union, I think.
Alberta Parents Union is part of it. Parents for Choice in Education. I was just actually chatting with John Hilton O'Brien at an event on the weekend. There are so many supporters coming together for this. My organization, allfiredupforfreedom.com, is supporting this. So many are coming together. We can't list them all on the posters. So it's just super terrific how people are coming together and supporting this. And one of the main ways that we ask supporters to support it is spread the word about the event. Collect the information about November 9th and then just send it out to your contact network and say, if you agree with Parents and Kids Together, if you agree with healthy boundaries for children, if you agree with this legislation that has gone through first reading, Bill 26, Bill 27, Bill 29, well, then come to the rally and demonstrate your appreciation for the good work that's happening right now. If you want, you can wear t-shirts that say Parents and Kids Together, or bring signs. We love Alberta flags. Alberta flags are awesome. We're going to have some fun at this rally. There's going to be some speeches, but there'll be a bit of music too. And it's going to be a very high energy event.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I will be there definitely for sure to take a look at this and have contacts and quite frankly, I think that's very important to support initiative like this because, as Jojo was saying, the reaction from the opposite party, I mean the NPD and the guys who are on the other side, unfortunately, is so violent
Mhm.
that is I remember Janice Irwin was very vocal. She was very vocal
Mhm.
in that statement that you mentioned, Jojo. But also, I think the lady who is managing the Trans Alliance Canada on Twitter, she basically said that whatever they have basically no support from the NDP when they want to get some office space or something to that effect. So it's like the marginalized of the marginalized.
That's right.
It is really shameful what happened,
Well,
to be honest.
can I share an anecdote, Max, that Kelly Lynn, she's the person you're speaking about, shared with me yesterday. So they were actually at the rally that the anti legislation group put on, the transgender group put on Saturday, and they were there just to talk to the media. They weren't going to cause any trouble or anything. And Kelly Lynn mentions that she turned around and it was Janice Irwin just behind her, standing right behind her, and she extended her hand to shake Janice Irwin's hand and to introduce herself as a detransitioner. And Janice Irwin turned around and did not even look at her or talk to her
Yeah,
because
that's exactly the tweet I have here actually.
yes, yeah, there you go. So exactly the point. The whole issue is the other side does not acknowledge the existence of detransitioners. They don't even want to use the word. And that should speak volumes to who actually is the minority here, who actually is the people who are oppressed. And when
Yeah.
you have a culture that's promoting this to kids at whatever age, like remember the legislation that they're opposing sets a restriction so that kids under 16 or so, 15 or so, don't transition, right? So older teens can still go through that process, but they're just saying some young people are just too young. Well, the people protesting the legislation do not offer an alternative, and therefore they're saying transition should happen at any age. That's who we're up against. And I think most Albertans will be horrified to think 5, 7, 9, 11 year olds should be allowed to choose their gender identity when they can't even choose their bedtime.
It's almost like people don't know how to drive at 18 years old. You think they're going to be able to decide if they're a man or a female
Right, exactly. For their lifetime and
for their
make
lifetime.
lifelong decisions that will sterilize them or affect their bodies, their joints. One of our speakers, Faith, she talks about how her joints don't work properly because when she was going through puberty, she got puberty blockers, and that affected her bone structure even today, where she can't wear clothes properly because she has male and female parts that are not working well, and they don't really fit male or female clothes now.
Yeah, that's another thing that Danielle Smith said in an interview. She was basically saying that, hey, I got somebody who is 37, and even she wasn't fully sure what's going on with the gender reassignments and stuff. So if she wasn't unsure at 37, just imagine a 10-year-old,
Right. But
right?
a 10-year-old sterilizing themselves for life. Like that,
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
why why would anyone think that that's a healthy practice or choice to encourage? And it boggles my mind that people think that we are the ones who are hateful. No one hates anybody. But just like we have restrictions on, like you mentioned, driving or voting or having sex, why do we have these restrictions for children at that age? In order to protect them. It's not about hate, it's about protection.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the message I must be, I think, mentioning. I would like to see, and I personally would like to go to that event on the 9th because I think there is a paradigm right now on which we can see how just we just see the double standard from the left. I mean, when they're actually pushing those people into changing their genders and stuff,
Right.
but when it comes to actually kill from that, there's complete silence from the left. And I just wanted to hear the other side of the story. I think right now we need to focus on the other side of the story, which is not the one that's been reported by the left. There were so many detransition. There were so many detransition. If I look onto the website here, Paris franchise, parents and kids together, they were talking about Chloe Cole, right? Who wanted to transition from a female to a male, and now she's detransitioned. Now I think there was another gentleman called Ollie London, I believe.
Yes,
Same
that's
thing. He was going to transition to a female to a female and
right.
detransition back to a male, right? So the detransitioning story is it's just been thrown to under the rug that people just don't know about this story. So this is like the
Absolutely.
kind of awareness that is been um, this is the awareness that you would like to promote your organization.
Yeah, and if I could just
Eh,
chime in here before you get back to Benita, I wanted to point out Ollie London actually wanted to transition into being a Korean from being white. And this is the point about what we're talking about here. It's not even about gender transition. It's about how do we determine reality? Do we determine reality based on how we feel? Right? A lot of your audience are very concerned about the vaccine mandates. Why? Because a lot of the government mandates were based on people's feelings, not on facts. Right? And we can see that
yep,
now looking back. And so this is the same thing. People are saying we can determine our gender and now our race or maybe our species based on how we feel at the moment, not whether or not our biology, the fact of our biology, is actually what it is. And I think we're providing a disservice for the next generation to be able to tell them, no, you can be whatever you feel. No, the response should be you need to celebrate the fact of what you are, whether you're a boy or you're a girl, however way you want to express being a boy or a girl, you are still a boy or a girl, and that's a good thing. That should be celebrated. What they're offering to young people is that you can change your reality based on how you feel at the moment. And that's a very dangerous idea because it has no limits. It doesn't end at gender.
absolutely. And even gender itself, it's a buzzword basically because there are not two genders. There are two sexes, male and female.
Right.
Period.
Max, I'd like to interject here. So, as you're well aware, Kelly Lynn Puri is one of our partners with regards to the event on
Hmm.
November 9th, plus
Yeah.
the other activities we're doing.
Yep.
And she's with the organization that Jojo mentioned. It's called D-Trans Alliance Canada. Now, I had some time to go through this website, and one of the things I found fascinating about the D-Trans Alliance Canada website is there's a proposal on there with regards to government forms. And you know how on government forms nowadays it's saying male or female or other? Well, on this website, and you can dig into it later,
Oh,
Kelly Lynn
yeah.
has a concept of adjusting government forms for adults so that it has sex and gender. So, under sex would be the sex you were born, your biological sex. And then gender would be your gender identity, because these are separate things. And there are people with gender identities that apparently change. They can go one way, another, and another.
Okay.
And so I'm actually leaning towards supporting this initiative, but
Mhm.
only for adults. For children, I think the paperwork still simply needs to read male or female, period,
Mhm.
because the decision to change your gender identity is an adult decision. So that's where I stand on that. So I thought you might like to notice that. Another website I'd like to mention from one of our partners is ARPA Canada. And ARPA Canada is just amazing. arpacanada.ca, arpacanada.ca. So I'll give you a link here, Max. And if you could just quickly share this. What is so neat about the take action on this website is this. Some people have a hard time writing to their elected representatives. They don't know what to say. They don't know where to begin. So our partners at ARPA Canada have created a wonderful tool to help people write letters to their elected representatives. And so usually I go to go to the Let Kids Be section. Actually, I think we'll find it under there. There's more than one way to get there. But if you scroll to the Let Kids Be section, you scroll there, then you go to the Take Action. It will talk some about how they have flyer distribution campaigns, which are important. But what I'd like to highlight about this website is that it is just so easy to write a letter to your MLA. And that is something we're pushing for. We really want Albertans right now to, not just 4,000 letters to MLAs, but 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, 50,000. Can you imagine, Jojo, if we got 50,000 letters to the
Is that
premier
the
from
I-
Alberta?
is that the
That
email?
say, hey, we support Bill 26, we support Bill 27, we support Bill 29, pass it, right? And so there it is, easy mail. And so a person just, fills in the blanks. And then what this does is it kind of helps you create a letter. We encourage you can click on the suggestions they give for a letter, but we encourage you to personalize it in some way. Make it more your own. If this website doesn't already mention Bill 26, 27, 29, make sure you mention you support Bill 26, 27, 29.
Oh, and by the way, I just put the link on the bottom here so you can actually see over there.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Max.
Technology for the win.
Thanks. This is a great website. And so we're so happy that ARPA Canada is one of our partners in this coalition. Don't you think, Jojo?
Yeah, no, they've been great allies, and they are connecting us with many other leaders as well. So again, this is all a loose network, Max, because I think that's how we have to be able to get this passed. And frankly, we know our friends on the left like to get organized. They work together well, and conservatives tend to be more one-person operations. And I think we can actually accomplish much if we're willing to work together, and I hope we can model that in the future. It's one of the most important things for us to remember that we are better together, not just as parents and kids, but as workers and organizers and activists. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. Frankly, we already see the fruit of what the left has done at the city councils across Alberta. They got together, they chose their candidates and their council candidates, and they got them elected. Whereas the conservative-minded ones here in Alberta, in Calgary at least, where I'm from, they ran against each other and they all lost. So one of the things Benita and our friend Dale will be working on after this as well, I don't know if you want to speak on this, Benita, is that they're working to make sure we get school board trustees who actually believe in the rights of parents and who realize that the school is a servant. It's the assistant to the parents. It's not supposed to take over. So I don't know if that's okay, Max, if Benita can talk a little bit about that too.
I got a question here from Benita, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Max. I'll speak about first the comment on screen and then what Jojo just mentioned about how we're going to transform school boards. And so I have a little thing to show you here. It's about conservatizing school boards. It's an online event that I host, and the next one is Tuesday, November 26th. So now, with regards to the comment below, Eldon, just to clarify that one of the things I said was I'm leaning towards supporting this initiative of Kelly Lynn Puri. So I haven't said that I'm 100% supporting it. I am certainly intrigued by it. Kelly Lynn Puri is one of our partners in the Parents and Kids Together initiatives. And Kelly Lynn's story is so powerful. And Max is actually going to share the link to Kelly Lynn's story. She's a detransitioner. So there was a time she attempted to become male. She even grew a beard and then had surgery and other treatments. And then she realized that the process of transitioning didn't fix her pain. She had pain, she had discomfort. Transitioning didn't fix her. And so she realized she had to detransition. And so since Kelly Lynn Puri has been so supportive of our initiatives, she drove all the way from BC to Alberta to meet with Premier Daniel Smith and MLAs. She's been meeting with the press. She's even been interacting with some of the folks that have a different perspective here, some of those trans activists. And she's been standing up for us. She really has. And her message is so powerful. And so I feel we need, when someone is supporting you, you need to support them. And so whether you agree or disagree, Eldon, I encourage you to at least explore the concept. That's all I ask.
Can I just, I'm sorry, but can I just say something about that as well, if that's okay? Because I think it's important. Eldon, you're absolutely right. We both all on this call all agree that the principle is sound, and we're not going to compromise on that. However, there is unfortunately precedent in the law by the courts that have recognized gender identity as a separate identity according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And so the option that we have now is to let things stand the way they are, which is very confusing when they conflate gender and sex. Whereas I think the resolution or the proposal that Detrans Alliance Canada is proposing will actually be helpful in the future. Let me give you an example. I have friends who work as EMS or emergency medical services staff. They drive ambulances. And they tell me that one of the first things they do when they check on an unconscious patient is to find out the patient's sex. All right. So because there's all kinds of treatments, all kinds of hormones, all kinds of medication that is sex specific. Now, because Alberta's driver's licenses no longer mandate putting a biological sex, you can leave it blank. You can call whatever you want. They have said this is very confusing, and those precious seconds when they have to figure out what the patient's sex is could be very harmful, detrimental to the patient's health. So if we were to separate sex and gender on a driver's license, for example, that would actually help EMS services to identify the biological sex right away. Again, I'm not arguing the principle or the general idea. I'm in support of that. I agree with you 100%. But because of where the current law is right now, I think Kelly Lynn's proposal is actually something that will be positive to move away from that eventually and have this as a way to get that important information out to the medical people who need it. That's just one example, right? So again, we're not arguing on principle. I think we're all in agreement on principle. It's about how we live in practice in such a confused culture.
That's fantastic. And yeah, confusion is the word, because normally it's not about it's basically about confusion, but normally there's this double standard. It's like, why is that it is normal like right now and not like 30 years? And why is that it is so normalized right now? The amount of clinics like gender assignment clinics that's been popping up in the Western world is like phenomenal. It's like,
yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
You know, we might have to pivot in our promotions one day and just say, hey, the best thing you can do is when your gender identity matches your biological sex, just because this gender identity stuff has so much momentum. Anyway, something to think about. So right now, Max, I'd like to share with you a bit about the movement to transform school boards. And there are people working on this across the province. Actually, I'm working closely with Dale in Edmonton on this. And one of the initiatives is this here, which is called Conservatizing Municipal Councils and School Boards. And you register at tinyurl.com/conservatizing. So that is a once per month meeting that I host. I've been hosting these meetings for almost a year. And what we do is we share strategies for influencing current policymakers and strategies for replacing them. And so the good news is the momentum has already started. I've been in touch with a lady in North Edmonton, for example, she's thinking she's going to run for Edmonton Public School Board. And so we went door knocking one day, and it was just for practice, just to kind of get a warm up, get a feel for door knocking. She had never been door knocking. We used a petition that had to do with stopping the secrecy in schools and how the schools need to be fully sharing the curriculum and the resources with parents rather than hiding things, which is what they've been doing, unfortunately. So we just knocked on a few doors, but out of the 14 people we interacted with, 9 of them signed the petition. And so there's already amazing momentum right now. And we're looking for people with the courage to run for office, plus people to help with campaigns. And so there'll be an opportunity to sign up for that at the rally Saturday. I think Jojo and I can agree that it's not enough that we just get this legislation passed. Like passing, once Bill 26, 27, and Bill 29 are passed, Like, that's great progress. But we can't stop there. There's further action that's needed, because there's still people on school boards and some principals and some teachers that aren't quite understanding the importance of this. And so we have to keep pushing. And part of that is transforming school boards. So I really hope that everybody who comes to the rally on November 9th also signs up in some way to support this. You can sign up. Let us know if you're thinking of being a candidate, or if you're just willing to help with the campaign. Please sign up. Be a part of the momentum.
I got a question for you guys about this specific issue. The way I see things, the way I see things is this PAKT group is a collaboration group, right? So you have certain experts. So you mentioned that there are some groups involved into this, like Alberta Parents, Alberta, yeah, parent union parents, or parents union. I think that's Jeff Sparks, I
Yes.
believe. Then
Alberta
you
Parents
have,
Union. That's right, Max.
yeah, fantastic. Then you have also Alberta Parents for Parents Choice for Education.
Correct.
So I think that each group, if you will do certain tasks. Like one group will do the education side of things. That's going to be potentially that's going to be Joel Hinton O'Brien's job, right? Another group will do this. Another group will do that. This is something that you're planning to do as a group. You're essentially collecting energies together into creating like a task force. Like a task force, is that the
Well,
intention of PAKT?
I will, if I could answer Benita here. Part of what this is it's our first attempt to have all such diverse groups to collaborate. I was actually talking to a Muslim imam who's on our side on most of these issues. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, whenever I join you Christians always lose. So why should I join you? And he was saying it in a joking way, right? But but the point is, we can do our own separate things, but there are big enough issues like this one, which is a fundamental parents' rights, freedom issue, where we can actually protect the rights of kids to be protected by their parents, as I always explain to people,
Yeah.
where we can all collaborate, because it touches all kinds of issues that we can focus on as a group. I think, Max, what's critical, as I said, is if there are issues like this, we need to stand up with a unified voice to let the government of Alberta, to let the media of Alberta, to let the regular people of Alberta know we can do this together. This is not something where we're just disparate groups on our own, and that there's more of us than there are people who are holding extremist views that says, 7-year-olds should be able to change their gender, right? That's extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Yeah.
be able, and then to be able to collaborate. This is what I'd like to point out, Max. I hope it's okay too. I actually talked to two MLAs who were Christians, and they told me every fall sitting, the left, the unions, the LGBTQ, all of the people against freedoms are always come to the legislature and have a lobby day, even if they don't have a specific cause or issue of the year. They're always there showing their faces to the MLA, so that when the MLAs have a decision to make, they know who to talk to. They see these faces, right? They have an agenda put in front of them. And I asked these same MLAs, how often do Christians show up to do that? And they said never. And so I'd really like to change that narrative. That's one of the other reasons why we're putting this event together, Max, is because Christians and our allies, our other friends, should be able to come together once a year and talk to our MLAs and be their friend and show, hey, wait a second, we don't have horns and a tail. We're not the bad guys.
No.
And what the reason why we have people like Janice Irwin, God bless her soul, right? She's a person we need to pray for. We're not attacking her.
Absolutely.
Reason why people like her are so vitriolic against people like Kelly Lynn and others is because she doesn't have a circle of friends who have a diverse set of views. The left tend to congregate with only people who they agree with. They defriend you, or they get rid of you as a friend if you don't agree with their values. And so what ends up happening is all they do is believe stereotypes about a vast swath of the Alberta public. And
they create an echo chamber, so to speak.
Exactly. And the last thing we as conservatives and freedom people should do is do the same. We need to constantly be talking to people who don't agree with us, because that helps refine our views, but that also allows us to share our views. And to be able to do that as a team with all of these disparate groups, that's a powerful statement we're making to the government that we exist and we can rally our own people too.
And if my understanding, if my knowledge, if my understanding is correct, I think that it was the Muslims who started the 1 million march, isn't it? Not Christians. The Christians gathered after this because they saw, I mean, the Muslims, they saw a threat to their beliefs, and they believed that what the left is proposing is incompatible to their values, so they just protested. And then the Christians, I believe, they joined the scene. Is it right?
Yeah, yeah. Benita, you want to speak to that? Because I know you were involved.
Um, so my understanding is the 1 million March for Children was started by Muslims in September of 2023. And in Edmonton, I heard through the grapevine there were some Muslims that wanted to have an event, but I just couldn't seem to make the right connections. And so I initiated the event, and I ended up working with some Christians and actually some atheists in the planning and promotion of the event. Interesting that atheists supported it because lots of atheists believe in healthy boundaries for children, so they support this stuff, right? Like it's just so interesting that we may have, say, disagreements spiritually or in our religions, but on
Yes.
certain issues, on many issues, actually, we come together like this. And then so that day, September 20th of 2023, so many Muslims showed up. I don't know if it was 500 or 1,000 of it. It was so many. And those mothers are so passionate and so protective of their children. They
Mama
perceive,
bears.
they perceive the folks across the street to be not in alignment with us, and they shouted at them and they said, "Leave our kids alone." And there was a rhythm and a power in their words. Like, you could just see that these mothers are passionate to protect their kids. And it surprised me a little bit because I've met a lot of Christian mothers and I've seen Christian mothers at events, and yet that particular power hadn't come out of the Christian mothers in that way. Christians seem to be a bit I don't know, more laid back or something. And there are times we need passion. Like, it's necessary. Bring it out of yourself. So I'm just so grateful that although there's groups that maybe we disagree on certain issues, on other issues we come together, and the mesh is perfect. We all want to protect kids.
Absolutely.
And that was so funny that you mentioned, because I was there at the 1 million march. I was passing by and I saw the huge lineup of people there. And on the other side of the aisle, on 142nd Street, that was the office of the Alberta Teachers Association.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And they were completely faithful. And I think it was like two different words, like one from the ATA and one from our side. They're completely different from one to another. So we talk about the the event on the 9th. We talk about the missions meeting what you guys have. You mentioned that you're gonna have other events like this in the future, right?
Well, the main thing I would say, Max, is right now, other than the rally, we want to encourage Albertans to contact their MLAs. So we were going to continue that campaign until the actual vote at the end of the month. And people think, well, usually people win, they're going to get their way. Yeah, I guess. But again, I was talking to another MLA, this time a current one, and she said that they're getting all kinds of hate mail, they're getting all kinds of attacks, all kinds of slanderous statements. I mean, one of the MLAs, Benita mentioned her, has been like just so unfairly attacked, not just by trans activists, but by the media, misquoting her. Sometimes it seems deliberately, to say that she thinks little transgender people are like poop. And she never said that. Like, I actually don't understand why she shouldn't sue these people for slander, because there's a recording of what she said, and she never said that. And so in terms
Oh
of
no.
the challenge, what we have to recognize is that the work that we all do, even if it seems small, if it's multiplied 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times across this province, makes a world of difference. Every one of those letters or emails that Benita mentioned from our friends at ARPA, they, especially if it's personalized like that, each of the MLAs count those. They actually count them to see which side gets more support, and they that could sway their votes. And especially for those of you from ridings, like here in Calgary, in my riding, it's a very ethnic riding. There's a lot of Sikh and Hindu and Muslim people, and I think our MLA is one of those religions. Those people tend to be quite conservative on these issues. And so if we can rally everyone here to say, look, this is not an NDP issue, this is not a UCP issue, this is a fundamental human rights issue where children have a right to be protected by their parents, we could get this not just passed, but we can improve on this bill in the future. And as we mentioned, future events, Max, what we'd really like to do is have this be something that happens regularly. We have this kind of cooperation. We can see the kind of fruit it bears. And so when the next election comes, we'll not only be ready to nominate good candidates like Benita's doing, which is awesome, but we'll be able to put out an agenda that I think most Albertans can agree with. And that will help shape not just politics in this province, Max, but all the provinces across the country, because the problem right now is there is no a clear and articulate voice that's reasonable that says, no, your laws are actually not working. We can see all the effect from the federal government right on this, right? It's not just the freedom issues, but it's expanding from that. Now we have the government trying to control what we can say on the internet, even criminalize pre-crime, right? So you can get criminalized for something you may say on the internet. Well, if we're concerned about vaccine mandates and these kinds of things, and that should be very concerning to us. And that's only going to stop if ordinary people like you and I are going to start at the local level, which is why I think Benita's work here has to be supported. Get to the local level, get good people elected to the school board, then we can get them elected to the city, then we can get them elected to the province, and then maybe the federal government as well. This is a long game. Right. And I think that's what I'm trying to say here. We have to start somewhere. And we can't start somewhere if all we're doing is complaining about how awful the system is. Yes, it's awful, but we're still
a democracy. You have to be on the fight.
We have to start the fight. Exactly.
Yeah, and I just pulled out a document, just to give an understanding what we're dealing right now. I just pulled out this document. It's been on the social media platforms for about a couple of days. This $600 million grant from the Trudeau government, right, promoting LGBTQ ideas and stuff. It's so if you think about what's actually going on right now, well, this is it. You can.
Yeah, if I can just add, actually, one of the key websites where they're actually collecting signatures as well to write letters to MLAs against this legislation, right on the bottom of the website, it actually brightly says funded by the federal government of Canada. That's who we're up against. And that's why we need your financial support to organize this rally. And that's why we need you to show up, because we are now doing something where we're sticking our necks out. We're putting our money in. Benita's working really hard to get all the logistics on the legislature. Well, all of this will be to naught if people don't show up. We really need you to show up to make your voices heard, not just for this issue, but to make the politicians and the media understand we are here. We will not be silent. And you have to listen to us.
So what's the game plan here? So the game plan is to show up to this event. I think we all got it.
Yeah.
Second of all is to write to their MLAs and MPs as well.
That's right.
Okay. Federally, provincial, and maybe even their councillor too, right? Their city councillor. If you live in Edmonton, Calgary, that's going to be something that can be done as well. Then what you're going to do is through that event and through subsequent events, you're going to complete the cycle, so to speak, in such a way that you're going to have a critical mass to have people together to go into the school boards, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, that's where we start. But ultimately, all of this is about conversations. Are we willing to have conversations with our elected officials? That, again, just to not to be mean, just to say, hey, I live in your ward, I live in your riding, and you're not doing what the constituents in your ward want. You should change your mind, right? Or we can run against you. And then here's the other thing, Matt, is to have conversations with your neighbor and your coworker and your classmates to push back. Let me share a quick analogy here. I was speaking to a waitress. My buddy and I had gone into her restaurant, and we were talking about some of these issues on gender ideology. And she overheard the conversation. She started talking, and the first thing she said was, "I support transgender rights." And I'm like, well, okay, well, we don't want to harm anybody. We're for everybody. But I said, well, do you realize what they're planning here? They're letting kids as young as 5, 7 choose their gender identity. And you know what she said, Max? She said, these kids, I have a 5-year-old son. So I didn't know that in the conversation, but she shared it. And she said, my boy is not old enough to choose his bedtime. How can he choose his gender? And in that one conversations, Max, she changed her mind and was on side with what we're doing. That's what has to happen here, because the media is not going to be on side for us until for a very long time, and we have very hostile people there. But for the time being, they can't stop us from having conversations. And I
Max,
think that's a critical part of the training that we need to provide, and also to be able to know that the other side's arguments, they're so awful anyway. It's just a matter of getting a chance to have a conversation in a winsome way. We don't have to be mean, but point out these basic truths. How can someone with XX chromosomes have any kind of understanding what it's like to have XY chromosomes? Because whatever you try to do with your physical body, the biggest difference between males and females, Max, is our brains, how our brains are structured. And that comes from our DNA. That can't be changed by an operation. Those are the kinds of simple truths we need to be able to and willing to share.
I remember a while ago, while I was living down east, I actually made a thesis about this specific subject. And back in the days, were like that was in 2011. Already they were talking about what we're going on today, the genders, the pronouns, and all that stuff. Already in 2011. Obviously, it was very taboo. It was very on the ground, but now the thing is everywhere now, right? How come?
Max, I'd like to share something about writing to our elected representatives. Now, arpacanada.ca has a great tool, but some people, they just want to write their own letter. And so what I've done is I've created a spreadsheet with all the email addresses of every MLA. And so my recommendation is people write a message and just send it to all MLAs. But if you're just going to send it to some, make sure you get the premier and make sure you get the Minister of Health, the Minister of Tourism and Sports, and the Minister of Education, as well as your MLA. So that's like the minimum right there. There's 5. But better yet, just send it to all the UCP MLAs. If you want, you can send it to NDP MLAs. They're less likely to support this legislation. We for sure need the UCP MLAs supporting it. And so I have that spreadsheet list. So Max, if you put my number on screen, people can call me or text me, and I will send you that spreadsheet with all the email addresses of all the email MLAs. And what I did is I separated them by semicolon. So you just got to copy paste, drop it into your blind carbon copy 2 box, and away you go. Write your letter, say you support bills 26, 27, and 29. Those are the magic numbers this week. They're the winning lottery numbers. Bills 26, 27, 29.
And Max, can I just add to what Benita said? Because what Benita said is so critically important. I would also add, though, please let us know if you're contacting your individual MLA, because what we're trying to do at the coalition is to make sure every MLA is contacted. We really, truly believe that, including the NDP, because, again, the NDP are collating this. They're finding out how many people are siding with them. And if Nenshi can honestly say he got contacted by 4,500 people, right? I'm not going to question it. That's what he says. Then let's find 4,500 Albertans to contact him and say, no, we support this legislation. Stop opposing it. And let him use that same argument now, because he won't be able to if we have the same number of people contacting him. So it's critically important for us to be engaged. It's critically important us to have the confidence for that, Max, and then to begin to do what the left has constantly done, which is cooperate when we can.
I want to show you something about the MLA list in particular. If you want to go on the on Elections Alberta, I just post the link here. This is another site that I usually use. This is for the provincial level. Who is my MLA? So you can actually go into this address here, streetkey.electionsab.ca. So you can actually find your MLA here. So let's suppose that you want to search for by address. Let's say that I'm in Millwoods, or just give me an address T4C. Oh, this one in Calgary. Just put an address, just for the sake of putting an address, right? So you can actually see who is the MLA here. This is Calgary Pagan, MLA name, that's Tanya Fear, UCP. You can contact her. There's a contact information there, MLA name. Boop. So this is the MLA. So this is from Elections Alberta. If you want to take a look at this, so this is my MLA. Also, if you want to contact your MLA, your MP, you can actually always go to, like federally, you can go to ourcommons.ca or ourcommons.gc.ca. CA, I believe. That's the House of Commons. You can actually go in there and look at the voters as well too.
You can go to members and find them there.
Yes, I believe so. Speaker, something like the fact, constituency board members.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are multiple ways of finding that information aside from the way. So this is like the more government official websites.
Right.
Now, I just wanted to point out I just wanted to give also the another source as well.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely, because everybody's doing their part. But that's very very important to as well too. Streetkey.electionsalberta.ca. That's for the provincial election as well too. As for if you want to contact your councilor, then you have to go to your city website.
Right.
Like in here, I'm in Edmonton, so you have to go to edmonton.ca most likely and find the information by yourself. Like if I were to go to edmonton.ca, you're going to see under city government, and I believe that's councilors and mayor. You can actually see city councilors, and these are the councilors here for the city of Edmonton. So it's all public information. We're not inventing anything. This is in fact public information. You can pull the website. Those people were elected. So yeah.
At the end of the day, we are ruled by the people who are willing to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And what I think is going to happen for me after this is that, because this is something that what I actually like about this whole what we're dealing right now is that there is a greater interest in civic participation. Back in the days, we tend to think that voting is just a matter of casting a ballot every 4 years and we're done. But now I think it's more and more like getting involved into the nitty gritties of the whole thing, trying to get as deep inside the machine as possible with everything and engenders. Any other things I'd like to discuss or talk about, the events you'd like to do? And if there are other events, I'm going to push on the calendar anyways. So they will be on the calendar anyways. So just keep me on the loop on this. Any other things you'd like to discuss before we wrap this up?
Well, I will just say, if there's anyone interested in finding out more about what I do, which is that conversation training, Max, that's part of not just this website, but the ministry that I'm involved with as part of this coalition. You can find me more at redeemingconversations.ca. So redeemingconversations.ca. That's my website. That's my personal organization there. And we train people, particularly Christians, to have conversations on LGBTQ, on trans identity. That's the group. If you want to get that kind of training for your group, come and contact me.
Interesting. What about yourself, Benita? Any remarks? Any thoughts?
Well, I love signage and flags. So the people who are coming on November 9th, I encourage you to bring your signs and flags, especially Alberta flags and signs that read, "We support healthy boundaries for children. We support safe girls in sports. We support bills 26, 27, 29." And actually, I just happened to pick up this sign on the weekend at an event. And you know what? Jojo, I need your opinion. Would this sign be okay for this weekend? What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's a great one. We actually have where our signs will actually say thank you, Danielle Smith.
Yes. And so these I picked up on the weekend, and Daniel
Right.
Smith is a supporter
Mhm.
of bills 26, 27, 29, and therefore I'm a supporter of Daniel Smith. So if you have some sort of Daniel Smith signs, they're welcome at the event November 9th as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just put in the laws in here about bill. I just put, so this is bill 2026, I believe, at Bill 26. This is bill 27, and also bill 29. I'm basically pulling off the list just a second here. Bill 29 in Alberta, obviously, site alberta.ca. And
Can I
this is
just
all public information, by the way.
absolutely? Can I just add, Max, as well as you're looking that up? Remember,
Yeah.
even if you're not from Alberta, you can still support this. You can pray for this. You can send donations. All of the donations will go towards this event anyway. But by helping us, you're actually helping yourselves because we set the precedent, and we're hoping that this law becomes precedent for your province. So we'd love your support as well.
And also one thing, as I mentioned as well, too, whatever happens in Alberta right now is going to have a chaining effect on the rest of the country. I know people who are watching me right now from other provinces, particularly Ontario and Quebec, they are not fully aware of what's actually going in their own province, but they're watching what's happening here in Alberta so they can replicate what's happening here in their own province. So which
And
is very, 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 very interesting.
may I just share? I know I've talked a lot. Hopefully, this is okay, but share one analogy for you from the province of Quebec. Would that be okay, Max? Because
Oh yeah,
this
sure.
this speaks to the necessity of a bill like this. So I heard from a pastor's family. So this is a Christian family that their 14-year-old daughter was taken away from them from by child family services from Quebec because
Yes, it
the
is.
parent,
It
yeah,
is 100% correct. This is, and thank you for mentioning that. I'm just gonna try to find that bill. It's
sure.
called Bill 15.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that piece of legislation. I'm just trying to find. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna pull this thing here. So
Sure.
this is provincial legislation.
Yeah.
So basically, what it means is that if so, this is what they call in. So basically, this particular bill piece of legislation, what it allows you to do is the government is basically taking parental rights to the government.
Mhm.
By this legislation, you as a parent have virtually no rights as a parent.
Right.
So if you disagree with your kid not getting the experimental gene therapy, if
Mhm.
you don't agree that your kid doesn't lie with the right gender, the government can, through child services, they can basically your take away your custody of your kid.
Right.
And this is a real thing. And
Yeah.
this thing was passed basically like in 2023. Look, sitting
Mhm.
held in March 2023. So
Yeah.
this is actually when it was introduced,
Yeah.
and it was stable later on. So
Yeah. That's
so
right.
this is a very, very nasty piece of legislation. And I know some people who were very afraid. I know personally people who left the province of Quebec and moved out of the country. They moved to Alberta. Some of them are living in Alberta because of that. So
Correct.
what you mentioned is 1000% accurate.
Mhm.
I didn't know the extent of how people they were affected, but you mentioned what you mentioned is by through that Christian family. What happened with them? It's not the first time I actually heard such a thing, but this is the piece of legislation. It's called Bill 15,
Yeah.
Act to make the health and social services more effective.
Right.
But this is like and this is what this is about Quebec. I don't know.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
make like a softer version in English,
Yeah.
But if you want to get the real thing, you have to
Right.
learn. You have to look at it in French, and
Yeah.
then you're gonna see the whole thing in this entirety and this nastiness.
Well,
So,
again, this is totalitarianism.
oh
We
yeah,
all agree
definitely.
to that. And imagine now if we have transracialism or transspeciesism, and your child wants to transition to a furry or an animal,
Oh,
and you won't allow that because she's 7 years old and she doesn't know what she's doing, and the government takes her away from you so she can become a squirrel by another family. Right? Like, this is not an exaggeration. We've
no,
already seen government overreach in so many ways, and now we're empowering them to overreach over our own children. Like, this is why this has to be nipped in the bud now. That's the point. It will get worse. And so
absolutely.
this rally isn't just a rally for one event, Max. This is a way for us to galvanize our support now to nip that in the bud.
Yeah, and also one thing about that specific law that you mentioned, Bill 15. This is the sponsor, the Ministry of Health.
There you go. There you go.
So it has nothing to do. So why is the Minister of Health codifying child? Why is this guy codifying, i.e., altering the law affecting child child services? Why is it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good
Mm-hmm.
question, Max. Good question.
Food for thought.
Mhm.
Well, I will. I think I'm gonna. I sincerely thank you guys for any closing remarks you'd like to add before we wrap this up, because this is amazing. This is like, this is like the. This is very. This is the rabbit hole, by the way. I mean, I will be there on November the 9th. That's for sure. I will be there. I will
Well,
be
we're
there, and
so glad you're coming, Max. That's terrific. And we hope a lot of your supporters will come as well. It's worth it to make the trek all the way to Edmonton, no matter what the weather is, to support this event, because this is important. Now I know people are pulled in several different directions. There's a lot going on right now. Some people are actually busy preparing for Remembrance Day. I'll be heading to the St. Albert Remembrance Day ceremony, but with all the plans I have, I am prioritizing November 9th at Alberta Legislature. We have to say to our government, we have to say to Albertans that we support bills 26, 27, 29. Now, what's really important about a lot of people coming to this is there's a high likelihood the media is going to be there. We've already had some of our reps interacting with media. We've already had assurances from some media representatives that they are going to be there. And so we're talking mainstream media here. And what has to happen is we need a whole crowd of you filling that square in front of the front steps of the Alberta Legislature. I've booked the entire section, the whole fountain pool zone. That's all ours. We want to fill that with people, because when that is full of people, and then the media shows up, and then they pan that crowd, and that crowd is 10 times bigger than the crowd that was there last weekend with the opposing view. Do you know how powerful that is? Do you know what that's going to do to the viewpoints of Albertans? So please come on November 9th.
Yeah. And also one thing is that I think at this point of time, I think in this battle, in this war we're dealing right now, I think that we are gaining ground in the sense that we are essentially capturing the moral concept of the whole situation. The sense that what I mean is that we are gaining ground on the on the moral aspect of this war. So to the point where right now we can actually talk to the middle ground and the middle class and the people who are more central on the center, and not necessarily in the freedom community, but the normal people like the average Joe who doesn't actually feel um, follow politics that's much as we do here, right? So yeah, it's very interesting. Ahmed will say, "Hey, great panels, guys. Thank you very much. Hey, Helmet, thanks for coming. That's amazing." That's amazing. So we'll see you on the 9th, guys. That will be fantastic. I will make some cameras. I'll take some pictures and perhaps do a little montage as well too. That would be fantastic. Oh, speaking of montage, if I don't mind, I was at the AGM last weekend, and for the AGM in for Red Deer at the AGM from the UCP, and I'm working on some montage. I'm working on some montage I will be releasing that will essentially cover all the interviews that I had over there. So it's gonna be like a massive, probably 2 hour video I'm making right now. I'm just compiling a whole bunch of stuff. So once it's said and done, I will be releasing that on the podcast, just like we're doing right now. And also I'm gonna watch the election in the United States as well too. And speaking of that, speaking of the whole situation, the whole thing that we are talking about here, is amazing the amount of people in the United States, but and the whole conservative movement as a whole, how the Overton window is shifting to the right, right, and a lot of those people who tend to think that they're on their own spectrum, whatever. You can actually see those people who you can actually see the Overton movement moving towards a direction we never seen before. It's very interesting. It's almost like inclusive, but on the right side, right?
Mhm. Well, we need to replicate that coalition here, and I think that's
Absolutely. And it's all
better.
about peace. It's all about peace. It's all about telling the truth, and it's all about telling the truth, peace, and not dragging others between others. Sometimes I feel bad for saying bad things for other people, but I think we all should do it. I think we all should work towards this goal of essentially working with each other, right? Well, thank
Yes.
Benita.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that last part?
Yeah, I was saying, Benita, that right now the Overton window is shifting so
Mhm.
much right now, but on the right side. So we're essentially on this culture war. We're starting to think that those people who sort of think that they were oppressed by the right wing conservatives, as they call, they're being accepted right now. It's kind of cool to see.
Yes. Max, I don't know how much time we have
Yeah,
left. There is another item I'd like to share if you want to continue, or did you want to shut down?
yeah. No, go ahead, go ahead.
Do you have that video of the transgender individual Blaine approaching the
Oh yeah.
protesters on
Absolutely.
Saturday?
Yeah,
Uh, so
absolutely. I will show you. I will show that clip. Let me
So
guess.
Jojo, you probably haven't seen this yet, but you know who Blaine is, and
Mhm.
Blaine, I have a lot of admiration for Blaine. I actually met Blaine in Lethbridge months and months ago, and Blaine is transgender, and she approached this group of individuals that were protesting, across the street from the UCP AGM on the weekend. And when Max is talking about how the Overton window is moving and how perceptions are changing,
Mhm.
Blaine's interaction with these folks, I think, is an example of that. So I'm hopeful Max can play that clip. It's not that long.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna turn the audio here. I'm just gonna stop the feed for a second here because I have to do a little fine tuning here to share the present share screen Opera with the audio. Okay. All right. Can you guys hear the clip here? Yeah. Hold on a second, guys. I'm just gonna post this thing here.
Yeah.
Just okay, though. I think we got it. This clip here.
We can't hear it though.
You can hear it.
No, we can see it. That's great to see.
Oh, you can hear. Okay, just a sec. I'm just gonna do some little magic here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
That's called technical issues, I believe. uh, so I'm just gonna share this thing here. I'm gonna show here Jason Levine's video. By the way, it is fantastic. Uh,
What I think is just super, and this is probably partially to all Jojo's hard work, is that we do have transgender individuals supporting the work of parents and kids together, and detransitioners as well. And Jojo just has an amazing way of reaching out to people, finding the common ground, and drawing them in with us. Thank you, Jojo. We still have no sound, Max. Maybe it's working for you, but it's not working for us. But as you can see, Blaine is interacting with a protester, and Blaine just stays calm and cool under all circumstances. And they had a bit of back and forth there, and Blaine asked a couple of questions, and all the protester could do was sip her drink.
Well, and I will point out, Blaine was smart enough to bring a camera person to go so that everything was recorded. And if there's any shenanigans, it's on camera. So that's a way to protect themselves. You know, in terms of this, Benita, I will point out this has been a team effort. People have just been drawing their friends and their family, and that's how these things start, and that's how these things will be won. So
and also,
we need to come
and,
together as a team.
and also, how can you compete with this from a cultural perspective? How are you going to compete with this?
Right.
I mean, you're essentially on the same ground. You have Blaine there who are on the same page as the other guys down there who are equally transitioning, right? If I were to go there and say all what they were saying and talking about, they'll
Well,
have no sense because I'm not higher or lower. I'm basically, so
well,
by
remember,
having Blaine there, it's like they're on the same page.
their only argument really is that we hate trans people, that we want them dead, that we need to agree with them. I mean, this is the biggest lie the left always has, Max. Agreement equals love, and disagreement equals hate. That's their only actual agreement or
Hmm.
worldview, if you believe it. And so when you have someone like that, it's really hard to accuse them of being hateful against transgender people. They'll try. They always try. But ultimately, that's the fall of any kind of emotion-based worldview, is if you're going to attach your argument to a certain identity or certain emotion, when you have someone who have the same identity, if you have someone who you can accuse really easily of being hateful, then you have nothing. And that really leads to, again, the fact that these ideas are triumphing in our culture because good people say nothing. And
Yeah.
we need to be the good people. In fact, one of the key lines I often share, even in political circles or even Christian circles, is that we're not the bad guys. We're the good guys. And as soon
Hmm.
as we accept that, and as soon as we accept that what we believe actually saves lives, what we believe actually causes human flourishing, then if you truly believe these things, you're the good guy, you won't be quiet about it. You'll have to share it. That's what good news means.
Yeah, and also one thing is that when you really think about it, the um the reason why the left is kind of succeeding with this rhetoric is because they are depending us as the bad guy.
Correct.
Then at the same time, we had people like us who are essentially saying those people are essentially not worthy of love. When
Mhm.
in reality, if what we need to do and to convey as a message is saying we accept you for what God created to be.
Yeah.
You're just being deceived, but we still love you what you are.
Yeah.
And how many of them, like those detransitioners right now, became
Mhm.
Christians?
Well, yeah. I think, Max, the way I say it and the way I teach it is, real love accepts you as you are, but also wants to help you become better.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
every parent understands that. Everyone who knows what it's like to have a toddler is praying that that toddler grows up, right? And that's what real love does. In fact, C.S. Lewis defines love this way, and I really appreciate it. It says, love is not about helping people feel better. Love is about helping people be better. And
Abs-
when we start thinking that way, that means we're the ones who are actually loving, because we're not just accepting people for us as what they are. We're wanting them to be better people. And
Absolutely.
the people who are arguing the other side are saying, no, you have to keep me as I am. You can't let me ever change. You can't ever let me, grow up. And that's why we have this infantile worldview that says
Mm.
my feelings determine my reality. And if you offend my feelings, you're evil. And now we have the most sensitive person in the province determining what laws should be. That's not
Absolutely.
a healthy future if we build
No,
that way.
absolutely. Like in John 15 verse
Right.
12 to 13, my command is love each other as I loved you. Greater love has no more than this, to lay down on one else's life amongst his friends.
That's
You
right.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that
I'm
whole
a
passage.
Sunday school teacher now. I don't know if you guys do this, but I
Yeah,
teach
yeah.
Sunday school now. And last Sunday, the lesson was on creation. And
Mm,
so we talked about, God created the world, and then on the seventh day he rested. And then I had the kids make things out of Play-Doh. And so in a sense, they were becoming little creators. And then we talked some about how, God created little boys, God created little girls, boys can grow up to be men, girls grow up to be women. And just reaffirming some important lessons
mhm.
about creation and about God made us a special way, and how we all have a responsibility to discover our gifts, develop our gifts, and share our gifts. And if
Right.
we don't share our gifts, we're sort of denying the world something. So anyway, I love being a Sunday school teacher.
Well, and
Absolutely.
the saddest thing in this whole discussion, Max, in terms of the conversations, is when you hear the stories of people who are transitioning, it's always something like, I never felt like the other boys, or I never felt like the other girls. And so they think that they can be fulfilled by leaving out the other gender because they've rejected themselves. And
Yeah.
how is it that we've come to a point in a culture where we tell people not to accept themselves?
And
What
I think that boils down to the mission of, what's the name of the other organization? On top of my head, just don't remember.
Parents for
Um,
Boys or Alberta Parents Union
no,
or
no, no. It's um, Gays Against Grooming, some that
yes,
effect.
they're
It,
involved as well. We're gonna hopefully have one of their leaders speak
oh,
as well.
fantastic,
Yes.
fantastic. Gays Against Groomers. Like, you're a lady, you can be a tomboy,
Mhm.
but
That's
you
right.
can be all, but nothing else. But you can still be the most amazing mother in a later age. You
That's
know.
right. That's right.
So
And frankly, Gays Against Rumors have made this argument very clear, especially for women, especially for lesbians, that the transgender ideology is erasing women.
oh
So
yeah,
that that makes
absolutely.
that makes no sense in a generation where we're talking about the rights of women. We have a Supreme Court justice in the US who was literally appointed because she's a black female, who, when asked, "What is a woman?" said, "I don't know." Like,
Come on,
what
please.
happened? What happened to smart people? So remember, when people accuse us of being the dumb ones, remember they can't define woman. So
That whole thing is making people ask the question, were you put in your position for your competency or your color? Like the
exactly.
in the US they
Mm,
call it affirmative action. Here in Canada, we've got our DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion policies, and even the Alberta government still has DEI policies, and I'm looking forward
yeah,
to that changing. Let's go back to putting people into certain positions, whether we're hiring them, recruiting them, electing them. Let's put them in their positions based on their
yeah.
competency, not their color.
And that is something that it was brought at the AGM, if I remember correct. It was resolution number 14, I believe, or 16. One of those is the when they get hired, if you want to be working for the provincial government, basically DI goes out the window. Because even though if you go to Service Alberta or something like that to find a job, they can still push in the DEI stuff. Like if you go on jobs, Alberta jobs, like I'm just gonna go on like this Alberta jobs at the government,
And let's talk
alberta.ca.
about kids for a sec, though. Like, Jojo, would you agree that when we have a child, and let's say that child's suffering in some way, maybe you're caring for that child as a mentor or babysitter, whatever it is, and they're struggling. I'm finding that a child needs kind of encouragement and a boost, right? And there's different ways to give encouragement and a boost. But one of the ways I find is most effective to lift that child and help bring up their self esteem is make them feel like they're competent about something. So you give them a task and then something to challenge them a little bit, and then you let them practice and they get a little good at it, and then you praise them. So would you agree, Jojo, that when it comes to lifting children, that validating their competency about something would be much, much better than validating gender issues,
Well,
sexuality. Let's
let,
just
let
start.
me let me add something to that, Benita. That's not just true for children, that's true for adults too. We all need to be challenged to become better. Like at least C.S. Lewis said, real love is about helping you to become a better person, not just leaving you as you are. And it reminds me, actually, I was on one of those US battleships that have been turned into a museum. And I remember when they walked by the jail, the prison of the ship, and there was a little story there of a young sailor, 18, 19 years old. And it talked about how he'd caused some problems. He had a fight or something as part of his shift. So when everybody got to the island and they disembarked and they had their time off, he was stuck in jail. The captain and his superior officers kept him in jail to punish him for the bad things that he was doing. And this is what he said. I still remember it, Benita. He said, that was the most important thing that happened in my whole military career because it helped me grow up. And I realized I should not be doing and taking for granted these rules, should not be doing those things. And after that time, I completely changed as a sailor. And so if that applies to young kids, it applies to adults as well. We need to be a society that grows up. And frankly, when we practice a kind of ideology that says you are only hired because of your skin color, that's not only racist, frankly, that also is actually harmful to the rest of society.
Oh yeah.
I was talking to a firefighter in Edmonton just a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about DEI hires in firefighting. And I said to him, look, I don't care who or what gender or what skin color that firefighter is, but that firefighter must be strong enough to carry me outside of my burning house, right? And I think everyone would agree with that, even the firefighters.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
concerned because they're watering down their standards for their physical standards to make sure more women or more other groups are involved. Again, hey, if the lady can lift me, absolutely. It's not about gender, but if she can't, let's not lower the standards. People are getting much, much fatter anyway. So we need stronger and stronger firefighters, not less strong.
Yeah. Like I just found this is a job offering from the government of Alberta. Like you can see jobpostings.alberta.ca. This is a policy analyst in Edmonton. The government of Alberta is committed to diversity inclusion policy. If you click in there, this is official government policy.
I'm looking forward to this getting changed, especially after that UCP AGM we just had. This has got to get changed.
Yeah, please. Is somebody at the VP, somebody at the PGCC committee is watching this show? If Daniel Smith is watching this, because we got some people from the UCP watching this, please check.
Well, like Benita said, let's start with the kids and let's get
Yep,
the
absolutely
passed. And there's other things that a coalition of like-minded conservative groups can work on in this province. And as I said to our team, right, Benita, we need a win. We've been losing all over the place. We have places like you said in Quebec where they're literally confiscating kids whose parents don't let them transition. We should all be heartbroken and horrified by that.
Absolutely.
And so if we can make Alberta, and I'll use a word that probably shouldn't, but if Alberta becomes a firewall to protect itself from all of these other things, we become an example that other governments can do it too.
Absolutely.
And that's a critical job we have in the Confederation. Like we can make a difference, not just here, but across the country. So please show your support, show up, send some money our way so we can pay for the travel of our friends, and make sure you pray for us for those who pray that this event go extremely well.
Oh, by the way, do you have like do Jojo, do you have like an email address, like an e-transfer? Your people want
Yes, so just go to the website parentsandkidstogether.ca. We have a Give Send Go account there, and I'll update that tonight. Actually, that's what I'm supposed to work on. So everything will be set up for tomorrow.
sounds good. I'm just gonna look at this, the donate
Donate
version
button's all the way at
here.
the end. That's right. We're
At
going to
the-
put it on the top. So, but it is there's one at the end there. You can donate there. Just go up a little bit. Yeah, it's
Please
coming up.
donate below.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh,
That's it there.
I register?
That's
No.
for the registration.
Oh,
So
okay,
donate
donate
right
here.
there. Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
it's okay. Gotcha.
There's
I
our Give
found it.
Send Go account.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic.
We
Sounds
really appreciate donations because some of our presenters are coming from afar and we need to meet their expenses.
Yeah.
So every donation that comes in, and these presenters that are coming in from afar, they are amplifying our message so well. So please help support it.
absolutely, and we're all help each other as well too. So it's gonna be very important to help each other as much as we can. It's the future of the province and the future of the country we're dealing right now. If you see what's actually happening in Quebec, that gives you an understanding what we're dealing with here in Alberta if nothing gets done, which is very important, very important. So I would like to thank you all guys for coming here to this particular interview. It was very refreshing and very important to have you guys. And also, if you're interested in this show, just you can also send an e-transfer to e-transfer at freedomcalendar.net. Gets me cover the expenses of the website, the podcast, the stream yards, the hosting, all that sort of thing. Also help them as well too. They're working their asses off into making them the word available praise. If you run a business, if you want to promote, sponsor the next show, you can always send an email to podcast at freedomcandle.net and we'll be able to discuss sponsorships or anything of that nature. And I'd like to thank you, Benita. Thank you, Jojo, for being here with you guys. And thanks for all of the other guys who are tuning in as well, too. And I will see you on November as well. Also, in the meantime, there's going to be another event on the same kind. I'm going to show it to you because this is something that this is something that for next events, I'm going to show you what's going to happen for the next events as well. The next events here, I'm just going to show the screen real quick. So next events here, we're talking about this event here, Edmonton Mingle. These are the guys from Edmonton Center, the UCP, riding over there. They're doing like a mingle, Edmonton Mingle, mix and mingle. There's a lot of people, a lot of MLAs and MPs as well who will be there as well. I will be there for sure. The PACE meeting that's at 7:30. Well, I think we'll be there, Benita, isn't it?
I'll be at the PACE meetings this week. Yeah, there's one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday.
Okay. And this is a also very cool thing. This is a Jesus revival thing. This was suggested by some people at church from another church. I made some digging on the event. They're doing this thing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you want to take a look at this, obviously your event here, that's on November the 9th. And yeah, that's all I have for now. And I'm going to add more events as well as the situation progresses as well. This is another thing. If you want to do social stuff, that's going to be on the 23rd. I've been at this one last year. It was amazing. That's why I got my picture from my podcast on the back. That was cool. All right. Well, thanks guys for coming here, and we'll see you in the next podcast episode. Feel free to subscribe at so the handles are fcalendar.net, and you can also go to freedomcalendar.net on social on the podcast. You're going to see all the links for the social media links over there. Feel free to subscribe, and thanks for coming, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks.